Edmund Spenser, a giant of the Elizabethan era, left a profound mark on English poetry. His contributions were not just limited to his own time, but have echoed through the centuries, influencing countless poets and writers who came after him. His innovative verse forms and rich allegory in works like the Faerie Queene set a high bar. This epic poem, filled with intricate characters and moral lessons, showcased his mastery of language and storytelling, making it a cornerstone of English literature. After Spenser's passing in 1599, English poetry continued to evolve in exciting new directions. The seeds he planted grew into a diverse garden of poetic expression, with each new generation adding their own unique voice and perspective. Two distinct schools of thought emerged, the Johnsonian and the Metaphysical Traditions. The Johnsonian poets, named after Ben Jonson, focused on classical forms and satirical wit, while the metaphysical poets, like John Donne, explored complex themes of love and spirituality with inventive metaphors. These traditions, though different in style and philosophy, represent the richness and diversity of English poetry after Spenser. The interplay between these schools of thought created a dynamic literary landscape, reflecting the changing times and the evolving nature of human experience. The Johnsonian tradition, named after the renowned literary critic Samuel Johnson, dominated the 18th century. This era, often dubbed the Augustan Age or the Age of Reason, valued clarity, wit, and intellectualism. Johnsonian poets championed these ideals, seeking to emulate the classical forms and styles of ancient Greek and Roman literature. Their poetry emphasized balance, order, and restraint, reflecting the Enlightenment's emphasis on logic and reason. One of the most prominent figures of the Johnsonian tradition was Alexander Pope, who lived from 1688 to 1744. Pope was a master of the heroic couplet, and his works are celebrated for their satirical brilliance and keen social commentary. His influence on the literary world was profound, shaping the tastes and styles of his contemporaries and future generations. Pope's satirical masterpiece, The Rape of the Lock, published in 1712, epitomizes the wit and elegance of the age. This mock-heroic narrative poem, inspired by a real-life incident, deftly combines humor with a critique of the superficiality of high society. The poem's intricate structure and playful tone make it a quintessential example of Pope's literary genius. His poems often explored social and moral themes, using heroic couplets to deliver sharp observations and memorable epigrams. Pope's ability to distill complex ideas into concise, impactful lines made his work both accessible and thought-provoking. His essay on criticism and the Dunciad are other notable works that showcase his mastery of language and form. Another key figure was Samuel Johnson himself, who lived from 1709 to 1784. Johnson was a towering literary figure, known for his contributions as a poet, essayist, lexicographer, and critic. His works reflect a deep engagement with the human condition and a relentless pursuit of truth and understanding. Johnson's own poetry, including the Vanity of Human Wishes published in 1749, reflected his profound moral and philosophical insights. This poem, a meditation on the futility of human desires, is a powerful example of Johnson's ability to blend poetic elegance with intellectual depth. His other works, such as his essays in The Rambler and his monumental dictionary of the English language, further cement his legacy as a central figure of the Johnsonian age. In contrast to the Johnsonian emphasis on clarity and order, the metaphysical poets of the 17th century embraced complexity, wit, and intellectual exploration. This tradition, taking its name from John Dryden's later characterization of John Donne's poetry as metaphysical, delved into philosophical and spiritual themes with a unique blend of passion and intellect. Metaphysical poetry often employed unconventional imagery, intricate metaphors, and dramatic arguments to explore themes of love, death, faith, and human existence. What set metaphysical poetry apart was its use of conceits, extended metaphors that drew surprising and often jarring connections between disparate objects or ideas. Imagine comparing love to a compass or the soul to a spider. These are the kinds of imaginative leaps that characterize metaphysical poetry. This style aimed to shock the reader into a new awareness, challenging conventional ways of thinking and feeling. Section 6. Metaphysical Poetry's Leading Lights. Metaphysical poetry, a genre that emerged in the 17th century, is known for its complex and philosophical nature. It delves into themes of love, religion, and existence, often using elaborate metaphors and paradoxes to convey its messages. John Donne, who lived from 1572 to 1631, stands as the preeminent figure of the metaphysical school. His work is characterized by its wit, inventive metaphors, and deep exploration of human experience. Donne's poetry often reflects his own life, from his youthful love poems to his later religious writings. His poems, such as The Flea and a Valediction forbidding mourning, are celebrated for their intellectual rigor, emotional intensity, and striking imagery. The Flea, for instance, uses the image of a flea to explore themes of love and physical union, while A Valediction forbidding mourning speaks to the enduring nature of true love, even in the face of separation. George Herbert, who lived from 1593 to 1633, another leading metaphysical poet, brought a devotional sensibility to his work. Unlike Donne, Herbert's poetry is more focused on his relationship with God and his spiritual journey. His work is marked by its simplicity, clarity, and profound emotional depth. His poems, often shaped like the altar or other religious objects, explored themes of faith, doubt, and the search for God. Herbert's use of shape poetry, where the layout of the poem on the page reflects its subject, is particularly notable. This technique, seen in poems like The Altar and Easter Wings, adds a visual dimension to his exploration of spiritual themes, making his work both intellectually and aesthetically engaging. Section 7. A Meeting of Two Worlds. While the Johnsonian and metaphysical traditions presented contrasting approaches to poetry, they were not entirely separate entities. Poets like Andrew Marvell, who lived from 1621 to 1678, bridged the gap between these two schools. Marvell's poetry exhibited both the intellectual complexity of the metaphysicals and the formal elegance of the Johnsonians. His work demonstrates that the lines between different poetic traditions are often fluid and porous. Section 8. Lasting Impressions on English Literature. The Johnsonian and metaphysical traditions left an enduring legacy on English literature. The Johnsonian emphasis on clarity and wit influenced poets like Thomas Gray and Oliver Goldsmith. The metaphysical's exploration of complex emotions and intellectual themes paved the way for later poets, including T.S. Eliot and Sylvia Plath. Section 9. Conclusion. A Tale of Two Traditions. The post-Spenserian era in English poetry was a time of remarkable creativity and diversity. The Johnsonian and metaphysical traditions, each with its distinct characteristics and contributions, enriched the landscape of English literature. From the elegant wit of Pope to the intellectual fire of Donne, these traditions continue to inspire and challenge readers today, reminding us of the power of language to explore the complexities of the human experience.